In the world of professional wrestling, not everyone gets the chance to shine right from the start. WCW was once a stage filled with talent, but it was also a place where many performers were overlooked and never given the opportunities they deserved. Yet, what seemed like career-ending setbacks often turned into stepping stones that propelled them forward in WWE. From being underestimated, they rose to become top stars, leaving an unforgettable mark on wrestling history. This is their story. 1. Stunning Steve Austin. During his time in WCW, Steve Austin was never truly recognized for his real potential. He was placed in the Hollywood Blondes alongside Brian Pillman, a tag team that was entertaining but never viewed as a cornerstone of the company. Despite having strong in-ring skills, agility, and steadily improving charisma, Austin was consistently undervalued. WCW management lacked confidence in him, refusing to give him the platform to rise to main event status. The breaking point came in 1995, when he was released over a simple phone call, a cold, dismissive act that nearly crushed the dream of a wrestler still searching for his place. Yet that very setback became the turning point of Austin's career. After leaving WCW, he drifted into ECW, where his frustration, anger, and determination to prove himself began to take shape. It was there that he sharpened his promo skills, raw, blunt, and full of personality. This evolution laid the groundwork for his arrival in WWE, where he would transform into Stone Cold, a character that would forever redefine professional wrestling. In WWE, Austin was no longer the overlooked talent. He became the face of the Attitude Era, a rebellious figure who stood up to Vince McMahon's authority and delivered confrontations that electrified fans worldwide. His infamous Austin 316 line turned into a legendary slogan, propelling him into pop culture status far beyond the wrestling ring. The image of a beer-drinking outlaw, raising hell against bosses and rivals alike, captured the hearts of millions. From being seen as a nobody in WCW, Steve Austin reinvented himself in WWE and secured his place among the greatest legends of all time. His journey stands as proof that sometimes failure is only the foundation for creating an immortal superstar. 2. Terra Rising. Looking back, the name Hunter Hearst Helmsley was already unusual, but it was still far more acceptable than the first ring name Paul Levesque carried when he stepped into WCW, Terra Rising. It sounded more like a cheap video game character than the future image of a world-class superstar. In those early days, Levesque was just another unknown face, wearing an awkwardly tight outfit and sporting thick hair that made him look more like a rookie than someone destined for greatness. Under the name Terra Rising, he appeared in several minor matches, picking up a few wins over little-known opponents such as Keith Cole, Sonny Rogers, and T.A. McCoy. Those victories did nothing to elevate him. Instead, they highlighted just how far he still was from resembling a legitimate star. Eventually, WCW decided to try a different approach, giving Levesque a new persona, Jean-Paul Levesque, a pompous French aristocrat with an over-the-top accent and haughty mannerisms. While the gimmick made him stand out, it also boxed him into the role of a mid-card act with limited upside. The company even considered pairing him with Lord Steven Regal as part of the Blue Bloods. Regal, however, was experienced enough to recognize the young man's hidden strengths. He advised Levesque that if he truly wanted to grow, he needed to leave WCW and find an environment where he could sharpen his craft and develop his character properly. That advice became a turning point. Levesque left WCW and arrived in WWE, where he was given the chance to build the persona of Hunter Hearst Helmsley. From there, he gradually transformed into Triple H, the Game, the Cerebral Assassin, one of the greatest names WWE has ever produced. From a rookie saddled with a laughable name Terra Rising, Paul Levesque evolved into a living legend, a multi-time world champion, the leader of the Attitude Era, and eventually the mastermind helping run WWE behind the scenes. Sometimes, a humble beginning lays the groundwork for greatness. And in the case of Triple H, it stands as the clearest proof of that truth. 3. Damon Stryker. At first glance, the name Damon Stryker sounds like a cold, hard-nosed detective who plays by his own rules. In reality, it was nothing more than a stage name given to a young Canadian chasing his very first break in wrestling, Adam Copeland, who the world would later celebrate as Edge. From childhood, Copeland was a passionate WWE fan, dreaming of one day signing with Vince McMahon's company and performing on its grand stage. Ironically, it was WCW that gave him his first televised appearance. To reach the Disney MGM studios in Orlando, Florida, Copeland endured a grueling 24-hour journey from Canada. That commitment alone reflected the relentless drive of a young man desperate to carve his path. Yet instead of receiving a proper debut, Copeland was tossed into the role of an enhancement talent under the alias Damon Stryker. During WCW pro tapings, he was quickly fed to Kevin Sullivan and Meng, men who outmatched him in both size and experience. The low point came when he was slammed to the mat with a brutal chokeslam from the Giant, who fans would later know as Big Show. In his autobiography, Edge admitted that his WCW stint had nothing to do with passion and everything to do with getting paid. From the start, his true ambition was WWE. If anything, the short-lived experience only confirmed to him that WCW was not the place where his potential could flourish. Copeland recalled that by the mid-1990s, WCW's backstage atmosphere felt unstable and chaotic. Power rested in the hands of individuals more concerned with personal agendas than building future stars. That impression fueled his determination to find a way into McMahonland, the place he always believed he belonged. That decision proved to be life-changing. From a forgettable role as Damon Stryker, Adam Copeland reinvented himself as Edge, the ultimate opportunist, a multi-time world champion, and one of WWE's most enduring legends. 4. Bruiser Mastino. Glenn Jacobs is living proof that a career seemingly buried under bizarre gimmicks can still rise again and explode into greatness. Long before stepping into the role that made him a legend, the Big Red Machine Kane, Jacobs had to endure a string of laughable personas, from the evil dentist Isaac Yankem, DDS, to the fake version of Diesel. Those characters were so unconvincing that many wrestlers in his position might have simply given up on their dreams. What few fans realize is that history could have taken a very different turn. Glenn Jacobs might have stayed in WCW instead of building his name in WWE. Before portraying the sinister dentist, he made a one-time appearance on WCW Saturday Night. His opponent that evening was none other than Sting, one of WCW's biggest stars, and the outcome was hardly surprising. Jacobs took the loss. What made that appearance even more memorable was the outlandish look he was given. Wrestling under the name Bruiser Mastino, a moniker previously tied to the man behind Mantar, Jacobs wore a shiny gold vest, sported curly blonde hair, and flashed a Hollywood-style grin. Rather than coming across as an intimidating giant, he looked more like a lounge performer, making it impossible for the audience to take him seriously. The strange presentation didn't elevate him at all. Instead, it only highlighted how raw and inexperienced he appeared when standing across the ring from Sting, already a WCW icon at the time. After that brief showing, WCW had no long-term plans for Jacobs. Luckily, that dead end became an open door. He eventually made his way to WWE, where he spent years refining his craft, gaining experience, and ultimately transforming into Kane, an ominous, powerful, and unforgettable character. Behind the red mask, Glenn Jacobs not only became one of WWE's cornerstones for decades, but also secured his place among the legends of sports entertainment. From a forgettable outing in WCW as Bruiser Mastino to becoming Kane, Jacobs flipped the script on his career, proving that sometimes an embarrassing start is nothing more than the foundation for a truly iconic legacy. 5. Cactus Jack. During his WCW run, Cactus Jack left a lasting impression with his reckless hardcore style, throwing himself through tables, barbed wire, and enduring brutal punishment without hesitation. He was willing to sacrifice his own body just to give the audience the most intense emotions possible. Yet to WCW management, he was nothing more than a madman, someone capable of shocking television moments but never seen as a serious candidate for the company's top spot. Despite his efforts, Cactus Jack was constantly confined to a secondary role, never given the real chance to prove his worth. After leaving WCW, Mick Foley found a new beginning in WWE. There, he didn't just perform under one name but embodied multiple personas. Mankind, the dark, tormented soul, Dude Love, the eccentric free spirit, and, of course, Cactus Jack, the blood-soaked hardcore icon. This versatility allowed Foley to establish himself as one of wrestling's greatest storytellers. Each character brought something fresh, turning every appearance into an unpredictable chapter that kept fans captivated. In WWE, Foley captured the World Championship 3 times, an achievement WCW never envisioned for him. But beyond the titles, he cemented his legacy through unforgettable matches. The image of Mankind being thrown off the Hell in a Cell by The Undertaker in 1998 became an immortal moment, symbolizing his fearless spirit and unmatched dedication. Though his body endured countless injuries, Foley never stopped giving everything he had to the audience. From being dismissed as a mere lunatic in WCW, Mick Foley reinvented himself as a legend in WWE, an irreplaceable figure in wrestling history. He proved that sometimes, what others see as madness can be the very key to becoming timeless. 6. Robbie V. Picture Rob Van Dam without his trademark goatee, without the spray-painted singlet full of wild colors, without the dramatic chair-based offense, and without the legendary thumbs-up pose. That was Robbie V, the early version of RVD during his brief stint in WCW in the early 1990s. Robbie V was brought in by the well-known promoter Cowboy Bill Watts and, at first, received some level of support. He picked up a few televised wins against names like Scotty Flamingo, Pat Rose, and Shanghai Pierce. Those victories gave audiences a chance to recognize the new face, but they were little more than small pushes, certainly not enough to put him on the same level as Ricky Steamboat or other WCW icons of that era. What seemed like the foundation for something bigger quickly stalled. After completing a tour with All Japan and returning to the United States, Van Dam discovered that the landscape had changed. Bill Watts had been replaced by Ole Anderson, a booker who had no real interest in developing Robbie V. Without backstage backing, his role in the company faded into obscurity almost overnight. At that crossroads, Van Dam had a choice to make. In Japan, he could earn up to $2,000 per week, while in WCW, he was barely making around $100 per match. The comparison was glaring, and the decision became obvious. Robbie V left WCW to focus on All Japan, where he sharpened his skills and gained valuable experience. A few years later, Van Dam found his true home in ECW. There, he exploded onto the scene with a unique style, breathtaking aerial moves, and an unwavering dedication to giving fans their money's worth. RVD quickly became one of ECW's biggest stars, celebrated as the whole FN show. Watching him shine so brightly, WCW's new management under Eric Bischoff deeply regretted letting him slip away and even tried to bring him back. But by then, Rob Van Dam had chosen his own path, the path that would ultimately make him a legend in professional wrestling. 7. Brian Armstrong. Oh, you didn't know, the catchphrase "forever tied to Road Dogg" became iconic in wrestling history. But few realize that before making his name in WWE, Brian Armstrong had a forgettable run in WCW. Born into a family deeply rooted in the business, Brian was the son of veteran Bullet Bob Armstrong and the younger brother of Brad and Steve Armstrong, both active in WCW at the time. That family legacy likely opened the door for him to enter the company, even though he had yet to develop standout experience or skills. Brian's first WCW appearance came at a house show in 1990, where he was quickly defeated by Terry Taylor. Undeterred, he returned several years later in various WCW programs. However, instead of being built as a rising talent, he was frequently slotted as an enhancement wrestler, appearing on secondary shows like Saturday Night, Worldwide, Main Event, Power Hour, and Pro. Though he wrestled often, his role was mainly to make others look strong, with no meaningful wins or storylines to his name. Realizing that WCW would never give him the chance to break out, Brian turned to WWE in 1994. His early days weren't easy. He struggled to establish a clear identity. But persistence, charisma, and a unique personality eventually helped him stand out. With swagger, sharp mic skills, and the persona of the DOGG, Brian exploded during the Attitude Era as part of D-Generation X and, most memorably, alongside Billy Gunn as one half of the legendary New Age Outlaws. That transformation marked a turning point in Armstrong's career. From an anonymous name in WCW, he became a fan favorite and a major star in WWE. Ironically, after being released by WWE, Brian tried to return to WCW. Fate, however, played a cruel joke. He showed up seeking work on the very night of the final Nitro. Had he called somebody a little earlier, history might have taken a different path. 8. Eddie Guerrero. During his time in WCW, Eddie Guerrero had all the qualities of a top star, yet he was confined to the cruiserweight division. In that category, his matches were always explosive, highly technical, and captivating for the fans. Still, the company only treated him as a supporting act, someone meant to highlight the bigger-bodied wrestlers. Despite his brilliant storytelling in the ring, incredible finesse, and relentless fighting spirit, Eddie was never given the chance to compete at the very top. Instead of being a cornerstone, he was boxed into a role that made it seem like his talent existed only to make others shine. When he left WCW in search of something greater, Eddie entered WWE with the belief that he could reach heights no one had previously allowed him to chase. The obstacles were still there. His smaller stature and lean build caused many to doubt his potential. But Eddie never let those perceptions define him. With his fiery personality, natural charisma, and unmatched skill set, he gradually won over the hearts of fans everywhere. The lie, cheat, steal persona Eddie crafted in WWE became an unforgettable trademark. He turned cunning and mischief into an art form, delivering entertainment that was both hilarious and engaging, all while proving himself as an elite performer inside the ring. In 2004, when Eddie Guerrero captured the WWE Championship, it wasn't just a personal triumph. It was a victory for everyone who had ever been dismissed because of size or stereotypes. He showed the world that greatness in wrestling doesn't depend on how big you are, but on how much heart and talent you bring to the fight. Eddie's legacy stretches far beyond the titles he won. He left behind an unshakable bond with fans, a unique wrestling style that can never be duplicated, and an inspiring dedication to his craft. From being overlooked in WCW to writing a true fairy tale in WWE, Eddie Guerrero secured his place as one of the greatest legends the sport has ever known. 9. Meiko Satomura. In the mid-1990s, as WCW sought to expand its reach and diversify its roster, Eric Bischoff not only invested in the cruiserweight division but also entertained the idea of creating a women's division. To make that happen, he partnered with Japan's Gaia promotion, home to many gifted female wrestlers, to bring a few promising talents to the United States. Among them, Meiko Satomura stood out as one of the most exciting prospects. When Satomura arrived in WCW, she was still very young, yet her poise and advanced skill set quickly drew attention. While she wasn't promoted as a top attraction, she appeared regularly on secondary shows like Worldwide and Pro, where fans got to witness her powerful, precise, and intense style, a true reflection of Japanese women's wrestling. Every kick, every hold she executed carried discipline and relentless spirit, traits rarely seen in someone so new, especially in an environment that gave little focus to women at the time. One of Satomura's most notable WCW moments came when she competed in the tournament to crown the company's first women's world champion. Though she was eliminated in the opening round and watched the title go to Akira Hokuto, her presence left a lasting impression as an unpolished gem who had yet to be fully recognized. Unfortunately, with WCW soon abandoning its plans for a women's division, her opportunities in the company ended almost as quickly as they began. But that was only the beginning of an extraordinary career. Returning to Japan, Satomura steadily built her reputation with a resilient, disciplined, and deeply artistic in-ring style. She rose to become one of the most celebrated figures in Japanese women's wrestling, admired not just for her technical mastery but also for her leadership and influence. Years later, she returned to the US and made an unforgettable impact in NXT UK, earning the commanding nickname, the Final Boss. From a barely noticed competitor in WCW, Meiko Satomura grew into a living legend, proving that early setbacks cannot hold back true greatness. 10. Dave Heath. Before the world came to know him as the mysterious vampire Gangrel during the Attitude Era, Dave Heath endured a long, grueling journey. He traveled from place to place, training at Stu Hart's legendary Stampede Wrestling School, touring with All Japan Pro Wrestling, and even spending a brief stint in ECW. While trying to catch the attention of major promotions in the United States, Heath often worked as an enhancement talent for both WWE and WCW, a role designed to lose matches in order to make established stars look stronger. His first appearance in WCW came in 1989, when he competed in a few random tag team matches alongside various partners. Though it didn't generate much buzz, it gave Heath valuable experience in a large-scale professional setting. In 1993, a new opportunity came when he returned to WCW as a member of the Blackhearts. The company even considered signing him to a full-time deal. However, negotiations collapsed after a session at the power plant training facility, where some coaches bluntly called him fat. What might have seemed like a throwaway insult struck Heath deeply, and he chose not to commit to WCW long-term. Heath still tried to break back into WCW, but every attempt led nowhere. Instead of meaningful storylines, the company relegated him to secondary shows like Pro or Worldwide, using him primarily to put over other talent. Nearly a decade passed from his first WCW appearance, yet his standing in the promotion never improved. Along the way, he became the fall guy for rising stars such as Rey Mysterio, Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko, and the Public Enemy. Yet all those frustrating years eventually set the stage for his breakthrough. By the late 1990s, Dave Heath reinvented himself in WWE as Gangrel, a vampire-like character that instantly grabbed global attention. With his eerie entrance music, unsettling presence, and unforgettable walk to the ring carrying a goblet of blood, Gangrel stood out as one of the most unique personas of the Attitude Era. That transformation turned Dave Heath from an overlooked journeyman into a memorable figure in professional wrestling history. 11. Kip Montana. Billy Gunn shocked many fans when he arrived in WWE during the New Generation era as part of the tag team The Smoking Guns, teaming with his on-screen brother Bart Gunn. With his cowboy persona and rugged look, he quickly drew attention. But few knew that before stepping into WWE's spotlight, Billy Gunn, then wrestling under his real name Kip Sop, had an unremarkable past in WCW. Gunn's beginnings were unlike those of many future stars. He wasn't a standout from the independent scene, nor was he a prized signing from a rival promotion. Before wrestling, Kip Sop was actually a professional bull rider. Years spent on the rodeo circuit gave him toughness and endurance. Yet in a moment of reflection, he asked himself, is there a job that could punish the body even more than riding bulls? That question pushed him to leave rodeo behind and try his luck in professional wrestling. Once he entered the ring, Kip adopted a cowboy-inspired name, Kip Montana. Under this moniker, he found himself across the ring from some of WCW's biggest stars. In 1989, he wrestled on WCW Pro, facing tough opponents like Sting and the legendary Road Warriors. Although he was used mainly as enhancement talent, losing matches to make others look strong, those experiences became valuable stepping stones for what came later. At that stage, Kip Montana was still too raw to make a lasting impression. He lacked experience, polish, and the presence of a true star. What he did have, however, was a striking physique and rare agility for someone of his size. Those traits eventually caught WWE's eye just a few years later. When he joined WWE, he dropped the Kip Montana name and became Billy Gunn, a key figure in the Smoking Guns, later thriving in D-Generation X and beyond. His journey stands as proof that even those who once seemed like background players in WCW could eventually reinvent themselves and shine as some of WWE's brightest stars. 12. Rey Mysterio. During his time in WCW, Rey Mysterio electrified audiences with his signature luchador style, daring acrobatics, unbelievable speed, and the ability to turn every match into a breathtaking spectacle. He was the pride of the cruiserweight division, constantly delivering unforgettable moments. Yet despite standing out so clearly, Rey was treated as nothing more than a secondary act, a performer meant to entertain rather than someone capable of carrying the company. WCW confined him to the role of the small high-flyer, never giving him the chance to compete for major championships or headline marquee events. When WCW collapsed, many believed Rey would struggle to find a place in WWE, a company traditionally built around larger, more imposing athletes. But he refused to be discouraged. With his iconic mask and unique lucha libre identity, Rey slowly won the crowd's hearts. His extraordinary in-ring talent, resilience, and tireless fighting spirit made him one of the most beloved superstars, defying every stereotype about size. The turning point came in 2006, when Rey Mysterio authored one of the greatest fairy tales in WWE history. He overcame overwhelming odds to win the Royal Rumble, a nearly unthinkable feat for someone of his stature. Not long after, Rey reached the pinnacle by capturing the World Heavyweight Championship, cementing the crowning achievement of his career and proving that determination can shatter any barrier. What makes Rey Mysterio a legend isn't just the titles he earned, but the inspiration he gave. He showed the world that being different can be a strength, and that belief and willpower can break through any prejudice to achieve glory. From being seen as just an entertainer in WCW, Rey rose to become a global icon, a living legend cherished by fans everywhere. Mr. JL. Before WCW fans ever heard the name Mr. JL, Jerry Lynn had already traveled a long road in professional wrestling. By the time he signed with WCW in the fall of 1995, Lynn brought more than 7 years of experience and had made his mark on the independent scene. He was especially remembered for his series of thrilling matches with Shawn "Lightning Kid" Waltman. bouts often credited as a foundation for the modern cruiserweight style. Lin also competed in Japan and Mexico, sharpening his craft and earning a reputation as a resilient, inventive, and dependable performer. However, once he arrived in WCW, Lin was steered in a very different direction. Management wanted to inject something new into the cruiserweight division and decided to give him a completely different persona, a masked wrestler in gear inspired by the Power Rangers. Thus, the character Mr. JL was created, an attempt to turn Lin into a comic book-style superhero inside the ring. In this role, Lin appeared on Nitro, Saturday Night, Pro, and Worldwide. He was often booked against tough opponents, but the script usually cast him as the one taking the loss. Instead of showcasing his true ability, he became a background figure, collecting more defeats than victories. A series of injuries only made matters worse, keeping him from building momentum. By the summer of 1997, while still recovering, WCW decided to release him. Even so, Lin didn't quit. He had short runs in WWE but never found a solid spot. It wasn't until he landed in ECW that his career truly took off. Under Paul Heyman's guidance, Lin was finally given the platform to display everything he could do. He delivered numerous matches praised by fans and critics alike, eventually reaching the pinnacle by capturing the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. If Mr. JL was just a forgettable role in WCW, then Jerry Lin in ECW became the embodiment of grit, technique, and passion. His journey proved that failure in one place can simply be the stepping stone to greatness on another stage. 14. Terry Richards. When talking about the final chapter of ECW, it's impossible to overlook Rhino, the man-beast, and the last champion before Paul Heyman's company closed its doors. With his powerhouse physique, ruthless style, and the devastating gore, Rhino became a terrifying presence in Philadelphia, striking fear into anyone who dared stand in his way. He embodied everything ECW represented: raw energy, intensity, and chaos. But before building that fearsome image, Rhino went through a forgettable phase. In the early 1990s, as an unknown face, he performed under his real name, Terry Richards. Like many young hopefuls, his biggest dream was to catch the eye of WWE or WCW. Wrestling under that name, Richards appeared in several televised matches, with WCW giving him more opportunities than anywhere else. Although usually booked as enhancement talent, Richards still had the chance to share the ring with some of the era's well-known stars. He went up against Road Warrior Hawk, clashed with Jim Duggan, brawled with the Nasty Boys, and even squared off with the controversial Renegade. Those matches didn't bring victories, but they gave him valuable experience, built resilience, and taught him how to handle the pressure of a big stage. The most memorable moment of his WCW stint didn't even happen inside the ring. In 1995, Richards was backstage at the Great American Bash and finally got to meet his childhood idol, Hulk Hogan. What shocked him wasn't Hogan's larger-than-life performance, but seeing the legend casually downing a few beers behind the curtain. That image was a reality check, reminding Richards that even the biggest stars were just regular people once the spotlight faded. From being a background figure in WCW, Terry Richards reinvented himself in ECW as Rhino, a true man-beast. His journey proved that early setbacks can sometimes become the foundation for an enduring legacy. 15. Chris Jericho. During his years in WCW, Chris Jericho was often undervalued. Despite possessing strong technical skills, a charismatic presence, and a unique personality, he was largely treated as a mid-card act. The company never viewed Jericho as a serious contender for top spots, keeping him mostly confined to the cruiserweight division or minor feuds that lacked real investment. Even as fans began to recognize his talent and natural charisma, WCW failed to seize the chance to elevate him into a true main event star. Everything changed when Jericho left WCW and signed with WWE in 1999. His career immediately took a dramatic turn with one of the most memorable debuts in wrestling history, interrupting The Rock and instantly making his presence felt before millions of viewers. With razor-sharp mic skills, intelligence in building his character, and a versatile in-ring style, Jericho quickly established himself as a cornerstone of WWE programming. The pinnacle of his career came at the end of 2001. In one unforgettable night, Jericho defeated both The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin to become the very first undisputed champion, unifying the WWE Championship and the WCW Championship. This victory not only elevated his legacy but also solidified him as a superstar capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with the biggest legends of that era. They may have been losers in WCW, but they went on to become legends in WWE. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to keep following Wrestling Sphere.